Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. While we are taking a break from First Age Friday and the Lay of Lathian to go back to Fandom Fridays, I wanted to finish our time in Aldarion and Erendis this series, and I think we have just enough space to do that. So let's get going with Week 50's Second Age Saturday. We'll pick up where we left off at the end of Week 49, after Aldarion left Erendis and their daughter Ancalime, and we read that he rode on alone to Amenelos and never again set foot in Emeria. And now we continue. When Aldarion left the chamber, Meneldur looked at the letter that his son had given him, wondering, for he saw that it came from King Gil-galad in Lindon. It was sealed and bore his device of white stars upon a blue ronger. Upon the outer fold was written, "Given at Mithlon to the hand of the Lord Aldarion, king's heir of Númenor, to be delivered to the High King at Amenelos in person." Then Meneldur broke the seal and read, "Ereinion Gil-galad, son of Fingon, to Tar Meneldur of the line of Eärendil, greeting. The Valar keep you, and may no shadow fall upon the Isle of Kings. Long have I owed you thanks, for you have so many times sent to me your son, Anardil Aldarion, the greatest elf friend that now is among men, as I deem. At this time I ask your pardon if I have detained him overlong in my service, for I had great need of the knowledge of men and their tongues, which he alone possesses. He has dared many perils to bring me counsel. Of my need he will speak to you, yet he does not guess how great it is, being young and full of hope. Therefore, I write this for the eyes of the king of Númenor only. A new shadow arises in the east. It is no tyranny of evil men, as your son believes, but a servant of Morgoth is stirring, and evil things wake again. Each year it gains in strength, for most men are ripe to its purpose. Not far off is the day, I judge, when it will become too great for the Eldar unaided to withstand. Therefore, whenever I behold a tall ship of the kings of men, my heart is eased. And now I make bold to seek your help. If you have any strength of men to spare, lend it to me, I beg. Your son will report to you, if you will, all our reasons. But in fine, it is his counsel, and that is ever wise, that when assault comes, as it surely will, we should seek to hold the Westlands, where still the Eldar dwell, and men of your race, whose hearts are not yet darkened. At the least, we must defend Eriador, about the long rivers west of the mountains that we name Hithyglir, our chief defense. But in that mountain wall there is a great gap southward in the land of Calanarthon, and by that way inroad from the east must come. Already enmity creeps along the coast towards it. It could be defended and assault hindered, did we hold some seat of power upon the nearer shore. So the Lord Aldarion long has seen. At Vignalonde, by the mouth of Gwathlo, he has long labored to establish such a haven, secure against sea and land, but his mighty works have been in vain. He has great knowledge in such matters, for he has learned much of Círdan, and he understands better than any the needs of your great ships. But he has never had men enough, whereas Círdan has no wrights or masons to spare. The king will know his own needs, but if he will listen with favor to the Lord Aldarion and support him as he may, then hope will be greater in the world. The memories of the First Age are dim, and all things in Middle-earth grow colder. Let not the ancient friendship of Eldar and Dunedain wane also. Behold, the darkness that is to come is filled with hatred for us, but it hates you no less. The great sea will not be too wide for its wings if it is suffered to come to full growth. Manwë keep you under the one, and send fair wind to your sails." Meneldur let the parchment fall into his lap. Great clouds borne upon a wind out of the east brought darkness early, and the tall candles at his side seemed to dwindle in the gloom that filled his chamber. "May Eru call me before such a time comes," he cried aloud. Then to himself he said, "Alas, that his pride and my coolness have kept our minds apart so long. But sooner now than I had resolved, it will be the course of wisdom to resign the scepter to him, for these things are beyond my reach." Now, first, we get confirmation in a footnote to our discussion on Wednesday about Gil-galad's name, as we read this. It is recorded that Ereinion was given the name Gil-galad, Star of Radiance, because his helm and mail and his shield overlaid with silver and set with a device of white stars shone from afar like a star in sunlight or moonlight and could be seen by elvish eyes at a great distance if he stood upon a height. I mean, it's literally the exact same text that we read from History of Middle-earth. By the way, a ronger, that word earlier about the letter that came to him and had the stars on a ronger, that's just a nice word for a circle or sphere. Now, let's take a brief look at the passage. The High King of the Noldor is writing directly to the King of Numenor. He's bypassing Aldarion, the king's heir, who does not guess how great the need of the elves is, even though Gil-galad says he is the greatest elf friend that now is among men. He speaks of the rise of Sauron without naming him, saying just that he is a servant of Morgoth, and he asks for help for any strength of men that Meneldur can spare. He speaks of the defense of Eriador. He references the Misty Mountains, and he references what we know as the Gap of Rohan as the weak spot in defending from the east, and how a place of power on the shores would benefit the elves and men whose hearts are not yet darkened. He asks the king, hey, support Aldarion's efforts to establish a haven, and then he reminds Meneldur of their ancient friendship, before warning him, quite rightly, that whomever this servant of Morgoth is, he's going to hate Numenor at least as much as he hates the elves. And he's right. Now, what do we think of this letter? And more importantly, how does it change the way we view Aldarion? Look, here's the thing. I'm not sure I have any answers for this in a short format episode. I know I'm looking forward to talking this through, hopefully with Sarah Brown, in a couple of years' time on the PPP. I mean, here's a guy who is a genuinely awful husband and father. I mean, he is a walking, talking example of how to do nearly everything wrong in those areas. And yet, one, Gil-galad says he's the greatest elf friend that now is among men. 2, he's risked a lot to advise Gil-galad, including, dare I say it, his marriage. 3, that his counsel is ever wise. 4, that he long has seen the strategic advantage of a haven in the region. 5, that he has great knowledge. And 6, that supporting him will result in greater hope for the world. Man, I mean, there's so much going on here. If nothing else, it reminds us that a weakness in one area, even a massive weakness, is not necessarily reflected in every other area, nor is a strength in one area indicative of an all-around great guy. But it is tough to bash Aldarion thoroughly now, isn't it? I mean, he plays such an important role in the history of the Second Age. For now, though, that does it for Second Age Saturday. Thank you for joining me, and be sure to come back next week as Meneldur begins a hard talk with Aldarion. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, join my content council, get a bonus episode every week, and more. And please, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. Like and subscribe. And please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps and follow @TolkienTimes on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.